What's up, guys? So we're back again with another video, and in today's video I just want to do a quick discussion of a topic that I've discussed with a few of my clients recently, and it has been something that I've set up within my own life so that I can stay on track with my goals, my business goals, my fitness goals, life goals, relationship goals, all that kind of stuff, right? And the concept is actually incredibly straightforward. So this video should be very, very quick because the concept is establishing bare minimums, right? And what I mean by that is you just need to sit down and establish the bare minimum efforts that you need to do to succeed in whatever it is that you're trying to succeed in, right? Obviously, in the context of, health and fitness stuff, there's a certain set of things that you need to do to stay on the path with all that health and fitness stuff. You should have a good idea of what that bare minimum is, right? Same with your job, your business perhaps. There's a certain bare minimum threshold that you have to reach. Maybe it's daily, maybe it's weekly, whatever, that needs to be achieved for you to keep your job or to keep your business ticking over. Effectively, what I'm saying is there is, in all endeavors, a bare minimum, right? That's the case. And the bare minimum is rarely, zero. It's rarely do nothing. In some cases, that is the case. Like if you're investing, say for example, and you're just you're not doing day trading or something, the bare minimum may be just sit on it and wait. So the bare minimum might be quite low. And it might change in terms of when you look at things on a daily practice, a weekly practice, a monthly, a yearly, etc. Right? But you should have a very good idea in your head of what is the bare minimum I need to do to succeed in this endeavor, right? And the reason for this is because then you can actually look through your day from the lens of what do I need to do to succeed? I need to at least put in the bare minimum. Anything above and beyond that, that's progress. We're doing great, But at the very least, you need to tick the boxes with the bare minimum, right? And we'll go through some examples in a second so you can kind of see what I'm talking about rather than this kind of abstract conversation that we're having here. But there is obviously going to be a bare minimum. It's the bare minimum effort. You just need to, just barely get over this bare minimum, and you're going to at least stay on track. So you should establish that for all your endeavors. Because once you do that, then cool, I've ticked the boxes, I've stayed on track, right? And the reason this is so important is because, motivation is fleeting. It's transient. It's not something that you have all day, all night, every day, every week, every month, every year, it's not something that you can just count on, right? So if you're relying on motivation to get you through, you're not gonna succeed generally anyway. So you need to have an idea in your head of how much effort you have to put in to stay on track, right? And obviously that is the bare minimum because we've just established the bare minimum to stay on track, right? That's what we're trying to do here. But once you've ticked the box with that, then you're going to stay on track. Because again, there's going to be days where you're just, like say for example, again, your health and fitness goals. There's going to be days where you're just like, man, I just could not be less arsed to go to the gym, to stay on track with my diet, to, do all these lifestyle practices that, I know I need to do to stay on track. There's going to be days where you just don't want to do anything. You're just, look, today is not the day. My head's not in it. My body's not in it. My circumstances are not in it, etc. Right? And on days like that, what's phenomenally fantastic to have? The bare minimums. You just go, okay, look, it's not going to be a world-shattering, unbelievable day of progress towards my health and fitness goals. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit my bare minimums so that I know I've stayed on track, right? And obviously there's going to be days where that's not even possible and you're just like, look, this is just a complete write-off of a day. That happens, right? But what we want to try to do is, create a situation where, even if we do have very low motivation or very, low drive or very, the circumstances are just, the stars are not aligned, we can still, try to stay on track. And having bare minimums allows you to do that, right? So again, we'll take the health and fitness stuff as an example. And you might go, okay, so there's a few different things that we need to keep on top of to stay on track with our health and fitness goals, right? So obviously we have this kind of calorie equation, the calories in, calories out, right? That's one part of the, all these health and fitness goals that you could potentially have, right? So that might be something that we look into to, keep on top of, right? So how can we do that? So you can have a bare minimum in terms of the diet and just say, look, I'm not going to go for the healthiest foods, or I'm not going to, have like specific macronutrients as my bare minimum, but you could. Again, it depends on the exact situation, how you set up your bare minimums. But having something like, okay, my bare minimum is to hit my calories. If everything else fails, I want to just stay on track with my calories. That's one option that you could have. You could also layer on top of that. You'd be like, the bare minimum. So even if my diet is, falling to pieces, I'm going to hit my protein goal, right? So you've established 2 bare minimums with the diet, right? So that can be effective. Now, again, there's going to be situations where that's just not the case. You go off track, you have a little bit too much food here, or, you're out and about and, you just don't stay on track with your diet, right? Again, maybe you're not even tracking calories. So you're just not even aware. You're just using some sort of portion control or something else, right? So again, that might not apply to you. But what I'm saying is, you've created some sort of bare minimum that you're like, as long as I do that, I know I'm on track. Everything else might be falling apart, but, I've achieved the bare minimum. I didn't do any complex, meal timing strategies or any complex, carbohydrate strategies, like, I have to be timed after my workout and all this kind of stuff. You're not doing any complex stuff, right? You're just bare minimum. I'm going to stay on track with my calories and I'm going to hit my protein goal. Bare minimum. As long as I do that, we're getting the majority of the benefits, right? Same with the output. Perhaps you're like, oh, look, today the gym is just not happening. I could not be less bothered to go to the gym, right? In that case, you're like, okay, so what's the bare minimum, we'll call it movement, that you need to do to ensure that your energy expenditure is in a place that is, acceptable for your overall goals. Perhaps that is, a higher level than you're willing to do today. That happens. Again, I'm not saying that you have to always be on top of this stuff, because no one is. But establishing a bare minimum in terms of movement or exercise, whatever you want to classify it as, output, energy output, that can be quite good. So just having some sort of bare minimum where it's like, all right, even if all else goes to absolute crap, I'm hitting 6,000 steps per day. That's my bare minimum. Normally I hit 10,000 and I do a gym session, but some days it's just not going to happen. I'm stuck indoors or whatever. So you're just like, 6,000, that's the step count that I'm going to hit, regardless of how the world, if it's on fire around me, whatever, I'm still hitting my 6,000. It's my bare minimum, right? I'm just going to, that's what I need for this kind of energy flux to occur so that I can stay eating relatively okay, and, stay on track with my health, body composition, fitness, whatever goals, Same thing again, it might be in the gym where you're just like, this is the context that I've been talking to my clients about this, especially as we come into reopening gyms and stuff from the lockdown. There's a bare minimum level of work that needs to be done to ensure that we are, progressing, right? And that might be a good thing to do as you get back into training. If you have a layoff, if you're listening to this in the future, if you've had a layoff or whatever, you want to know what's the bare minimum I can do to stay on track and potentially even progress. And that should be clear in your mind, and for, again, like talking to my clients, there's a number of sets or, reps or whatever that we want to achieve in a given workout, an overall volume that we want to achieve from that workout. But there is also like a minimum effective dose, right? And there's going to be days where you're going to the gym and you're like, look, I just can't motivate myself. I've had, 3 different pre-workouts. I've slammed them all. I've about 7,000 milligrams of caffeine in my system, and nothing is happening, right? So there's going to be days where you're just not in the mood. Something happened in work, or you're under stress, or you didn't sleep well, or whatever. Right? It's going to happen. Situations are going to happen. They're going to come up where you're just not going to be able to stay on track, right? Or again, it's going to be very hard to stay on track or to motivate yourself. So having bare minimums that you have to hit in the gym, or bare minimum level of work that you have to do in the gym, can be quite effective. At least having it as a knowledge point where you're like, right, I'm just going to go to the gym, right? Normally I do 6 exercises and all of them are 3 sets of 12 reps, right? So that's just not going to happen today. I'm sorry. It's just not happening, right? Having a bare minimum where you're like, I'm going to do at least one set of all of those exercises that I normally do 6. I'm just going to do one set of all of them, right? So I normally do 3 sets for each of those 6 exercises. I'm just going to do one. I'm just going to go in, I'm going to do my one set, and that's it. I'm going to move on to my next thing, right? So the bare minimum has been achieved. Again, I'm just arbitrarily setting this, to illustrate what I'm talking about, but you could set it for whatever is appropriate for your overall goals. Or if you're being coached by someone, discuss it with them, being like, what should I do on a day where I'm just not feeling it? What's the bare minimum I need to do to keep things moving forward? Perhaps it is, like maybe you're a powerlifter. You're like, okay, well, this workout was supposed to be, a squat focused workout, and, I had a lot of accessory work for, quads, glutes, hamstrings, whatever, right? And you're just not feeling it, right? Maybe the bare minimum work that you needed to do in this workout was to hit your squat numbers, right? You're just like, you have whatever, it's programmed 3 sets of 5, for example, right? Like, just go in, hit your 3 sets of 5, all the, secondary accessory work or whatever, you're just like, it's just not going to happen today. Not in the mood, don't want to do it, but you've hit the bare minimum. Yeah, maybe it's not the most optimal for progress, but that this is the bare minimum. Again, you've discussed it with your coach, or you've established that that's the bare minimum, right? So you can just hit that, go home, right? So you can sleep easy going, yeah, I hit the bare minimum. I did what I needed to do to achieve my overall goals, right? This isn't just something that you do in terms of the health and fitness stuff, right? It actually goes over into all these other areas of your life, right? And what I mean by that is, again, if you have a job, or, perhaps you run a business, like obviously I'm running a business, so this is easy for me to discuss in terms of the context of my business. Like, I know there's a few different avenues in my business that need to be looked after, right? And some of them need to be looked after daily, right? And well, I just have bare minimum standards where I'm like, look, if all else goes to crap, I've at least got those bare minimums. I've just ticked the box with them, right? Even if it's not my best work, even if it's not, phenomenal or whatever, I know I've ticked the box. I've put in a level of work that will ensure that if I look back on this in a week's time, a month's time, whatever, it will have accumulated into progress in my business, right? And for me, that's stuff like, write for an hour, right? So again, if my business is built around, creating content, especially written content, writing for an hour, it needs to be done, right? Again, I might be so unmotivated. I might be like literally get a paragraph written in that hour because it's just not flowing, right? But I know I've put in the hour, right? So again, you could go into this whole concept of, should you do it by level of work, output, or should you just do it by time? Some endeavors, they're going to require you to just have a set time to do them, in terms of just block off a block of time, and that's your bare minimum. You're just going to do your hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever makes sense, right? Some other tasks are going to be like, right, well, the bare minimum is that you have to write 500 words. You're going to have to write a definitive amount, a quantity, right? So again, you're going to have to establish that appropriately to your actual endeavors, right? Again, that should be, pretty intuitive for anyone who's, listening to this. But again, I know if I just do that 1 hour per day, I'm going to be on track with my business, like that's 365 hours per year, right? I know that I've ticked it off. And I know if I've written for 365 hours in a year, I'm going to be pretty good in terms of where I need to be at with my business, right? So obviously there's other things as well that I have as a bare minimum, a daily, habit, right? But what I want to also say is that these don't need to be daily, right? Because people kind of get caught up in terms of, the bare minimums, they need to be, this daily practice that you do every single day. And that makes sense for some goals, right? That makes sense for some endeavors, that you have to do it daily, like your health and fitness stuff. You kind of have to stay on top of it daily, right? You can look at it in terms of a weekly and a monthly and a yearly view. And maybe, you catch up on some stuff that you missed, earlier in the week and all that kind of stuff like that. Again, it can be appropriate, right? But some of the stuff, it needs to be looked after daily. And you can't just push it off into the future, because what often happens with a lot of stuff when you push it off into the future is that it never actually gets done, right? It's just, I'll do that, I'll do that someday, and just keeps going like that. It's like, I can't do this, I have this other stuff, I'll do it, and it just never happens, so you need to be aware of that and you need to plan accordingly, right? So some stuff needs to be done daily. Some stuff you can look at it in terms of, the bare minimum weekly standard, that can be appropriate. Some of the stuff, although with the weekly standard, some people do end up doing stuff where you wouldn't, like, it's not good practice, right? What I mean by that is, people will say like, oh, I'm going to have to write for 7 hours, right? Patrick says for his business, he writes for an hour per day, so I'm going to do that. Or I listen to, Stephen King or whoever is a writer or whatever, and they say that I need to write a paragraph per day or whatever they advise, right? And you go, oh, I'm just going to look at it in a weekly thing, so I should have 7 hours of work done per week, right? And then what often happens is people just don't do it for Monday to Saturday, and then come Sunday they're like, oh shit, I need to do 7 hours of work right now, and obviously 7 hours of continuous work isn't exactly the most exhilarating, and it's probably not going to be your most effective or quality work done in that time. So again, having a weekly view is good in some circumstances, but you do need to be aware of the natural human proclivity to procrastination and the willingness of humans to just do nothing instead of doing the stuff they actually know they need to do, right? Same again with a monthly view. Again, it might be something that you just need to do something weekly and have it accumulate into a monthly thing, and you can just look at it over a monthly view, the bare minimum monthly things that need to be done, right? So effectively, that's what I wanted to say today. There is a quantity, a level of output that you need to do in all these endeavors that you engage in, whatever it is, right? That you're trying to progress, health and fitness, business, finances, whatever. You just think of something, whatever it is that you're just like, that's what I want to progress. That's what I want to focus my attentions on. Maybe it's reading books. You're like, what's the bare minimum that you have to do per day to, keep on track of that habit? Like there's going to be bare minimums. Effectively, what I'm saying now is you need to establish those bare minimums, and that's not just some airy fairy like, oh yeah, like that's a good concept. I mean, actually sit down and write out what those bare minimums are, right? And that's not the end of this. So you've written them out. Then you need to establish how you're going to stay on track with them. Like, are you going to set a specific time per day? If they're a daily thing that needs to be done, set a specific time to do them. Like for me, writing, I'm like, that's the first thing I do every single day. Everyone else is asleep, but I do my writing. And there's no distractions. So I know it's done straight away, Again, there's whatever makes sense for you. You have to schedule them out, and you have to, have an idea of when these things are going to be done. And obviously, again, some things just need to be you need to stay on top of it all the time. What I'm saying about this, like, calorie tracking and, exercise stuff, like you kind of have to be on that a little bit more frequently. You can't just be like, yeah, I'll track my calories once in the morning and that'll be it. That can be effective if you're just going to cook all your food for the day as you track them. Again, that might be the habit, but yeah, establish your bare minimums, schedule them out, and then keep track of them. Are you actually staying on top of them? Are you doing what I just said earlier on, where you just I'll put them out in the future? It'll get done, yes. Of course it'll get done, And again, it never comes about, right? So establish your bare minimums, stay on track with it, and then succeed.